Alright. Hi, I'm Mahmoud. You know how they say sometimes when you need to make a point, you need to exaggerate? Well, for this video, I exaggerated. A while back, I made a video claiming that drummers are spending their money wrong. I argued that for a good, high-quality recording, you should be prioritizing spending your money on good cymbals. Today, to show you why I believe I am right, we are comparing regular cymbals, such as this one, to these low-volume cymbals. Are expensive cymbals worth it? Let's find out. Before you jump my throat, a few things up front. I am a beginner drummer. My drumming is inconsistent at best and absolute dog shit at worst. These 2 takes took me ages to record and film, and I had to do it twice because I messed up the audio, and even then it wasn't that good. So I time corrected a lot of it. I think it's good enough for the demonstration, but I just want to be honest about that so you don't get the wrong impression of what a beginner drummer can do. Secondly, I know that when people speak of cheap cymbals, they are not talking about these kinds of cymbals. Again, I'm just making an exaggerated point for educational purposes. And thirdly, let's talk about today's sponsor. No one. This is a small channel and I do everything here myself. If you want to support this because you genuinely liked what you see and maybe even you learned something, then I would truly appreciate it if you gave this a thumbs up and maybe even subscribed. Thanks so much. There's a few things that I find problematic with cheap cymbals. What are the usual issues with cheap cymbals? Number 1, they are undynamic. Hitting them with low velocity does very little, and hitting them hard doesn't change much either. Number 2, they are unnecessarily thick. I mean, just look at how absolutely inflexible they are, and they feel like sheets of metal when playing them. Number 3, they have a really bad frequency response with a lot of harshness. Number 4, they have this very odd sustain behavior where the good cymbals that do exist, even in the cheapest of cymbals, not necessarily these, they die off first and leave the harshness behind sustaining. And number 5, this is by far the worst offense, but I'm gonna need to explain once we get there. All of these things that I mentioned obviously also apply to these low volume cymbals. So why do I have them? Honestly, just for practice. That's it. These can break, rip, tear, crumble, I don't care. As long as I have a surface to hit, that's fine by me. Let's analyze the points we just heard. So 3 points here. Number 1, everything in the recording and in the mixing process was the exact same except for the cymbals. Number 2, I played the same section twice and I tried to be as exact as I could in order for us to be able to compare fairly. And number 3, I also recorded more isolated stuff, which we will analyze later. Let's start with the good cymbals first. The sheen and smooth high end of the cymbals sat incredibly easy in the mix for me. And despite it being slightly too loud here in this very specific example, it was still pleasant to listen to. They have a nice bloom on them, and even when playing them, for me as a beginner, they felt very nice and musical. They would give way in a nice way when I hit them. Are they perfect in the true sense of the word? No, but no cymbal is. you're always going to find some harshness or some weird frequency that you might need to attenuate a little bit. But that's okay. There's not much else to say. They feel good. They sound good. Great. Moving on to the bad cymbals. The first thing you'll notice is it kind of doesn't matter how hard I hit or how soft. They kind of always sound the same. Secondly, these even felt clunky to play. In the isolated version, you can even hear the clonk of the stick when it hits the edge of the cymbal. And that's with me consciously trying to avoid that. Number 3, an obvious issue that you may have picked up on already is how they don't sit right in the mix at all. These only have the highest of high end, and even that is very uneven and shrill. In my experience, regular cheap cymbals that aren't low volume have the exact same issue, just further down in the frequency spectrum, and weirdly enough without any of the needed high-end sheen. Number 4, they sustain oddly. It's crazy how even when there's good stuff about the cymbal, it kind of dies off before the bad stuff, leaving you with all of this really bad sustain. This is so tiring to listen to, even when it's just a rehearsal. Number 5, what I find really crazy about bad cymbals is how they change the perception of the rest of the kit for me. Same drums, tuning, preamps, mics, player, the mixing, everything is the same, yet I am listening and thinking, the snare sounds bad. I am only theorizing, but I think due to their odd frequency response and being so high up in the frequency spectrum, it makes me think that the rest of the kit should be brighter to accommodate that. This imbalance is just as prevalent with cheap cymbals, just with a different frequency response. So cymbals not sounding balanced end up making the kit sound imbalanced as well. If these were good cymbals and instead I had a bad drum, you know what? I could just sample replace the shells and it would probably be alright. With these, however, there is no fixing this. At best, this is polishing a turd. At worst, we're wasting everyone's time. So, what's the conclusion here? Don't mistake me saying avoid cheap cymbals as meaning all cheap cymbals are bad. There's some amazing stuff out there that isn't expensive, but most of the time with cymbals, you get what you pay for. So if you can, at least consider getting a high quality ride and a high quality hi-hat. I'd even say save up more money and get a complete set of cymbals and leave them off the kit unless you're recording or playing a live show. And keep the cheap cymbals like this one here for rehearsals and for practice. I hope you learned something today. And if you did, I would really appreciate it if you left a comment. And if you would like to see more, consider subscribing. It's free and it helps me out. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Take care.